Hello and welcome to News Tonight on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. In our top story, we'll be looking closely at India's first major renewable energy conference, where the Modi government is trying to drum up support from investors to reach a target of 1 lakh megawatts of solar power by the year 2022. So how achievable the target is? What are the major challenges? We will be discussing that. But let us begin the bulletin with the headlines. Prime Minister Modi calls for innovation and research to develop green energy sources as he opens the first renewable energy global investors meet in New Delhi. Cricket buffs around India celebrate as MS Dhoni's team beats Pakistan by 76 runs in a high-voltage match at the Adelaide Oval. Sri Lankan President begins landmark state visit to India, his first foreign visit after taking office. Bilateral issues between the two countries to be taken up. Twin shootings in Denmark capital Copenhagen labelled another act of terror against free speech. Attacker has been shot dead. High alert sounded across the country. And in Ukraine, fighting between troops and pro-Russian rebels subsides as a ceasefire begins as per the Minsk Treaty. But fears persist of it being a fragile one. Our top story, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today called for innovation and research to develop renewable energy sources in the direction of providing affordable electricity to every household. The first renewable energy global investors meet Reinvest got underway in the national capital as the government looks for quantum leaps in investment in the sector in coming years. Here is more.
An effort towards raising the share of renewable energy in an age of ever-rising energy requirements. The three-day event looks at promoting investment in the sector and connecting global investors with renewable energy stakeholders in India. Some 200 investors and over 1,000 delegates from across the globe are taking part in this edition. Modi stressed on the need for innovative techniques that could benefit all sections and industries as he called for greater investment in the area.
रिसर्च और इनोवेशन पर बल देना होगा. सिर्फ हम क्वांटम जंप कितना करते हैं, पहले कितना मेगावाट थी और अब कितना गीगावाट हो गए, उससे बात बननी नहीं है. हमने टेक्नोलॉजिकली क्वालिटेटिव चेंज लाने की जरूरत है और उसके लिए रिसर्च की आवश्यकता है. हम जो कुछ भी कर रहे हैं उसमें बल देना चाहिए. दूसरा, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग. हम मेक इन इंडिया की बात कर रहे हैं. हम चाहते हैं कि हमारे सोलार और विंड हो, इक्विपमेंट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पर बल यहाँ पर मिले.
Solar, wind, biomass as energy sources. The Prime Minister said it was time to look beyond traditional fuels, create a hybrid system of energy creation and aim for a quantum leap in generation. Renewable energy contributes just about 6.5% of India's energy mix. The government has proposed to raise this to 12% over the next 3 to 4 years. Targets have been raised to 100,000 megawatts by 2020.
दुनिया में 50 से अधिक देश ऐसे हैं.
Prime Minister Modi, who made a strong pitch for clean energy at the G20 summit in Brisbane, has said this had to be the way ahead for India and the world.
एक तरफ क्लाइमेट को लेकर के दुनिया बहुत चिंतित है. रिसोर्सेज खत्म होते जा रहे हैं, लोग भयभीत हैं. और दूसरी तरफ प्रकृति के साथ जीवन जीते जीते भी अपनी आवश्यकताओं की पूर्ति कैसे की जाए, उस पर अब गंभीरता से सोचा जा रहा है. और उसी के तहत आज रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी, जिस पे भारत अपना ध्यान केंद्रित करना चाहता है, और भारत अपनी आवश्यकताओं की पूर्ति के लिए हमें दुनिया में अपना झंडा ऊंचा करने के लिए मेहनत नहीं कर रहे हैं.
On day one itself, US-based Sun Edison and First Solar committed to build more than 20,000 megawatts of clean energy capacity in India by 2022. Reinvest to bring industries working in the states as well as global players onto a single platform for greater coordination looks for bigger inroads. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
All right, let's get a perspective on that story. Mr. Himanshu Vats, who's the energy editor with the Economic Times, is now joining us live. Mr. Vats, thank you so much for joining us here on Rajya Sabha TV. Mr. Vats, now Prime Minister Narendra Modi has made renewable energy a priority for his government. But looking at the targets really that the government has set for itself in the coming years, do you think that these are achievable targets, or do you think that these targets are hugely ambitious?
See, these are certainly very ambitious targets, and I think the point is we should not be judging these targets by 100% achievement. Even if you achieve something like 80% of this target, I'd be pretty happy. Because if you compare it with what the targets and achievement were in the past, there were a few thousand megawatts here, a few thousand megawatts there.
Right.
But now you're suddenly talking about gigawatts, which is, 1,000 megawatts. So it's a huge, huge step up in ambition. And but I think with strong governance and proper policies, by and large, achievable, I think.
Okay. What about the electricity distribution companies? Because if you look at the financial health of these companies, that's not too great. And these are the companies that will actually be buying solar power, isn't it?
Yeah. So there are two sides to this. One, which is perhaps the smaller component of this. It is in the very remote areas which are not connected to the grid. So there you're talking about microgrids, independent setups where these state distribution companies don't come in at all. The second side is, which is called the grid connected renewable energy. So there you need these these state distribution companies. So there are two aspects here. One, there is something called a renewable purchase obligation. So as per rules, every distribution company has to buy maybe 5 to 10 or some percentage of the power it distributes from renewable sources. Now this is very often not abided by because renewable power is costly and these guys are already making losses, so they would like to buy as much cheaper electricity as possible. At times they would like to have a power cut instead of buying costly power. But it is here where the future lies, because as the Prime Minister himself said in his speech, that when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat, when he first started renewable energy, solar energy, it used to cost 20 rupees a unit. Right. And he said each time such an announcement was made, there were headlines that this looks scandalous. But then as you scaled up, prices kept coming down. They came to 15, 11, 12, 10, and finally they're 7 rupees a unit.
True.
Which is very close to what the conventional power some plants give. And his point is, if you have more innovation and research, and a lot of research is going on, this gap between renewable and conventional will close. And the moment that happens, then as far as the State Electricity Board is concerned, it doesn't matter whether they're buying renewable or coal-fired or nuclear. So that's the direction of the future. And the scale at which India plans to build renewable energy, this economies of scale itself should reduce prices a bit. And there's a lot of scope for modern technology. So in the medium term, one can be very optimistic.
All right, one can be very optimistic, Mr. Vats. But speaking about the land which is made available, I mean, we have to look at the slow pace. That is also to be taken into consideration, isn't it?
Yeah, land is an issue. Particularly, if you look at solar energy, each unit of power generated requires more land than, say, other conventional sources. But at the same time, there are ways around it. Gujarat, for example, has used solar panels on top of canals. That is a lot of space available, and that's been very cleverly utilized. Then Rajasthan is a phenomenal powerhouse for solar energy because you've got so much of desert where you get very good high quality sunshine and radiation. And that is not land where people want to live, or it's not a cultivable land. It's very easily available. So that potential is there. And even if you look at cities, there's a lot of scope for rooftop solar. So while land is not available that you go buy land somewhere and put up a solar panel, it
Okay.
will perhaps not be economically viable. But if you look at these kind of solutions, rooftops, on top of various buildings, you go to deserts, you go to wastelands, there is land available. Out of the
Okay.
available land from these sources, what we utilized is only a very small fraction.
All right. So even if there are challenges there, you were saying that these are targets that the government has given is basically achievable. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Vats, for joining us and sharing your perspective on that story. All right, let's move on in the bulletin now. India's World Cup record of all wins against Pakistan remained intact. MS Dhoni's team beat Pakistan by 76 runs today after giving the arch rivals a 301-run target. Pakistan were all out for 224 runs, and as expected, celebrations around the country were just waiting to burst forth. Take a look.
Spontaneous celebrations erupted as their team crowns Pakistan in another high-nerve, high-voltage contest. Such visuals are being replicated around the country. The Sunday holiday mood, the evergreen attraction of an India-Pakistan contest, and the ups and downs through the match. In short, this was another unforgettable encounter between the greatest rivals of world cricket.
इंडिया वर्ल्ड कप जीत गया इंडिया वर्ल्ड कप जीत गया वर्ल्ड कप पाकिस्तान से नहीं वर्ल्ड कप हमें भारत अगर विश्व कप जीता या नहीं जीते लेकिन हमारी उम्मीद थी पाकिस्तान से जीत गया तो हमने समझ लिया इंडिया वर्ल्ड कप जीत गई
जैसा था इंडिया ही जीतेगी इंडिया पाकिस्तान में हमेशा से इंडिया जीतती है और इंडिया जीत गई है तो वर्ल्ड कप की शुरुआत बहुत अच्छी हुई है इससे ज्यादा खुशी की बात कोई नहीं हो सकती है बहुत धमाकेदार शुरुआत
Heads is the call.
The game itself was a huge draw from the start. Mahendra Singh Dhoni winning the toss and electing the bat first, the Virat Kohli-Shikhar Dhawan partnership setting in and going great guns, creating a new record partnership and on to Virat's victory. The turnaround in Shikhar Dhawan's run out and the fall of Virat Kohli seemed to have turned things around for Pakistan. India's wickets fell quickly after that and they were restricted by some fine bowling and 5 wickets by Sohail Khan. India ended with 300 for 7 after what looked like a 325 plus score at one stage. Pakistan got off to a slow start and could not keep up the momentum with a regular fall of wickets. For the Indian bowlers, a good outing for Mohammad Sami who restricted the run flow for Pakistan.
And completed another wicket for Mohammad Shami in the...
Pakistan needed some 106 runs off the last 10 overs with 7 wickets down, but kept up a fight almost till the end. Virat Kohli with 107 runs was declared man of the match.
It's been hard to keep focus, but that's the skill at the international level. You got to stay in your zone, you got to stay in your own little space and try to work things out for yourself. And I've been trying to do that since I came to Australia actually, and that's been working for me. But it's been a tough one, but as I said, glad to get it through.
As the spectator will tell you, so much of the magic of the Cricket World Cup derives from this one high-tension encounter.
The flags will be up all round. I'm sure at the moment there are cheers all over Delhi, Bombay, the smallest towns and hamlets.
It's been a slew of losses for Team India in Australia so far this season, and it did not look good going into the World Cup. Hopes are that this victory can turn things around for the team ahead. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
It's one game.
And in the other match played today at Hamilton, South Africa beat Zimbabwe by 62 runs to register their first points of the 2015 World Cup. In fact, South Africa had put up a massive score of 339 for the loss of 4 wickets. All right, let's move on in the bulletin now. RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat today called for the expansion of the organization as it began its 4-day annual internal strategy meet called Manthan in Kanpur today. Addressing members at the railway ground, Bhagwat said that the organization's job was to unite Hindu society and that it could not be done by mere speeches. The meet is being held behind closed doors and will discuss the organization's strategy to galvanize and energize its cadres for the upcoming assembly elections in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, while also taking up reasons for the loss in Delhi. Well, apart from the active RSS members, the meeting is being attended by BJP and VHP workers. The focus will also be on the youth and also to how to get them associated with the RSS. And some more national news in Nationwide. At least 12 people were killed and 2 others injured after an under-construction building collapsed in Chandauli in Uttar Pradesh. The building collapsed at around 4 in the morning today. A team of NDRF conducted a rescue operation for almost 6 hours and took out the bodies. Election Commissioner Chief H.S. Brahma has announced the launch of a mission for electoral roll authentication and purification drive from 1st of March. He also advised the officers to come up with suitable action plan to expedite so that the mission could be completed by 15th of August 2015. India's paramilitary force CRPF on Saturday organized a health camp in Maoist-affected village of Jharkhand. CRPF personnel, as a part of civic action program, distributed free medicines and utensils to the poor in 200 villages of Latehar district. According to CRPF doctors, so far around 150 to 200 people have already been treated. All right, we'll take a very short break here. Still to come, a focus on the education sector and also the expectations from the Union Budget 2015-16. Stay with us. Welcome back after the break. Let's move on now. Well, Sri Lankan President Maithripala Sirisena arrived in India this evening, his first foreign visit after he took office. During his 4-day visit, Sirisena will hold crucial meetings with the top Indian leadership, including President Pranab Mukherjee and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. President Pranab Mukherjee will host a banquet in honour of the Lankan President.
Lankan President's first foreign visit after assuming charge. Maithripala Sirisena is seeking a new horizon in the Indo-Lankan relations after bilateral ties suffered under his predecessor Mahinda Rajapaksa.
I think the new president said that China may be a friend, but India is a brother. The new president has already said, and he's coming to India, clearly making a gesture as the first visit that he's making outside after becoming the new president. So I think there is enough space now to work out the relationship.
I think the bilateral cooperation, the assistance is going to continue as it is. India has been very much known, particularly after the war, because we have given around $100 million for the reconstruction and rebuilding of the war-torn areas.
External Affairs Ministry said that he is expected to hold talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on key issues, including economy, trade, peace and reconciliation process in his country. Ongoing problem on the fishermen issue will also be a point of contention. At the end of the official leg of the visit, the Lankan President will visit the Buddhist pilgrimage site Bodh Gaya and Hindu temple at Tirupati. He will return to Sri Lanka on February 18th. Indo-Lankan relations were strained during Sirisena's predecessor Rajapaksa's tenure, after India backed the US moved resolutions at the United Nations over Lanka's involvement in the alleged war crimes. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And as a goodwill gesture, Pakistan today released 172 Indian fishermen. Now, this just 2 days after Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif welcomed India's decision to resume bilateral ties. The fishermen had been held at a jail in Karachi for allegedly violating territorial waters in the Arabian Sea. Significantly, their release comes on a day when India beat Pakistan in the World Cup. Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar is expected to visit Pakistan soon. And on to some international news. Well, terror struck in Danish capital Copenhagen early Sunday morning with a gunman opening fire at a free speech meeting at a cafe and then striking at a synagogue in the city, killing 2 people. Now, Danish police have shot dead the attacker as the country's prime minister called the attack a cynical act of violence and an act of terrorism.
Another shooting spree in a European city, barely a month after the Paris shooting. Late Saturday, armed men attacked a cafe in Copenhagen where the Swedish cartoonist Lars Vilks and his supporters had gathered for a free speech forum. A 55-year-old man was killed and 3 others wounded in the attack. Hours later, another shooting was reported in a synagogue, in which 1 person was killed and 3 police officers were injured.
Well, we don't know the actual number of persons. What we do know is that we have 2 different incidents in Copenhagen, and in that aspect, we're looking for the guys or the girls who did it in these 2 incidents.
Danish police officials claim that they have killed the suspect. They have also issued 2 still photographs of the accomplice. Meanwhile, they are also searching the house of a man they believe is responsible for 2 deadly attacks.
Indpå så har vi en antagelse om, at det er den samme gerningsmand, der står bag begge skudepisoder. Og vi har også en antagelse om, at den gerningsmand, som blev skudt af politiets aktionsstyrke ved Nørrebro station.
Danish Prime Minister Helle Thorning-Schmidt described the shootings as a cynical act of terror against Denmark. World leaders condemned the attacks.
En person blev skudt og dræbt. I nat blev en mand slået ihjel foran den jødiske synagoge her i København.
That is a sign of the danger we are confronted to everywhere in Europe.
Denmark is on high alert and a massive manhunt is underway. Police officials have cordoned off the area where the attacks happened. There is heavy security presence across Denmark. Significantly, the free speech gathering at the cafe was labelled as a debate on art and blasphemy. Swedish cartoonist Lars Vilks sparked a controversy in 2007 for depicting Prophet Muhammad in a bad light. He had also received numerous death threats and have been living under constant protection by the Swedish police since 2010. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And news from eastern Ukraine, where fighting has subsided but not entirely stopped as the ceasefire came into effect at midnight on Saturday. Even in the hours running up to the truce, fighting raged near Debaltseve but has reportedly eased since. Now, locals have voiced relief, though the Ukrainian president admitted that the ceasefire is a flimsy one.
An escalation in hostilities as the ceasefire deadline neared. In the hours leading up to the truce, fierce battles raged between pro-Russian rebels and Ukrainian troops at the key transport hub, Debaltseve, till the Ukrainian president made the official announcement in a televised address.
Всі вони хочуть миру. Хочу миру і я, президент України, Верховний головнокомандувач Збройних сил України Петро Порошенко. І в якості першого кроку я віддаю зараз наказ Збройним силам України.
As the firing died down, a wave of relief that the Minsk agreement and the return of some calm would in fact get lives back on track. It's a fragile peace with prayers on both sides that it holds.
Не стреляют, иду, как душа радуется, прямо аж поется. Нам нужен так мир был. Ну, мир, конечно, так не любой ценой, а чтобы за пределы Донецкой области ушли украинские войска.
Она была стабильная, конечно. А вот будет она или нет, это не от нас зависит. Правильно? Как вы считаете? Хочется верить в лучшее.
But the Ukrainian president warned it was too early to call the truce concrete. He cited continued firing in Debaltseve, where government forces are hard-pressed by encircling Russian-backed separatists, and he warned that Ukraine would strike back if provoked.
Друзі, я свідомо зараз не буду говорити, що буде робити Україна у випадку, коли мирний процес буде зірваний. Скажу лише одне. Отримавши удар по одній щиці, іншу ми підставляти не будемо. І нехай простить мене Господь.
Watchers say the next 48 hours will be critical. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
And some more international news and updates in Global Buzz. Nigerian troops have repelled a Boko Haram attack on the northeast city of Gombe. Soldiers and a fighter jet were used in a counter-attack after Islamic fighters overran a checkpoint on the edge of the city. According to witnesses, the insurgents were retreating towards their stronghold in the neighboring state of Borno. Earlier, Nigeria postponed elections due to be held on Saturday due to the insurgency in the northeast. Arab foreign ministers called on the international community to take action on Yemen after they met in the Saudi capital Riyadh. Top oil exporter Saudi Arabia, along with other members of the Gulf Cooperation Council, accused the Shia Houthis of staging a coup after they announced that they were dissolving parliament and forming a new government last week. Yemen has been in political limbo since the president and prime minister there resigned last month after the Houthis seized the presidential palace. Protesters blocked streets in Manama to mark the 4th anniversary of the Bahrain uprising. Anti-government demonstrators set up roadblocks and burnt objects on the roads, while riot police used tear gas to disperse the crowd. Bahrain has been shaken by low-level unrest since the February of 2011 during the Arab unrest. The anti-government protesters, mainly Shiites, have long complained of political and economic mismanagement. And on to our countdown to Budget 2015. The government focus on elementary education is a strong demand area, with educationists calling for improving the quality of schools rather than raising numbers alone. Now, hopes are high of the budget, outlining steps to take promises to fruition. Here's a report.
Elementary education is one of the major priorities of the government. There would be a residual gap in providing minimal school infrastructure facilities. Government would strive to provide toilets and drinking waters in all the girls' schools in the first place. An amount of rupees 28,635 crore is being funded by the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan and 4,966 crores by the Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan.
Big promises in the Finance Minister's budget speech last year. In pre-budget consultations ahead of Budget 2015-16, educationists want special attention to elementary schooling, with a focus on better schooling infrastructure rather than the sheer number of schools. Areas like poor teaching quality, access and innovation remain aspects that limit learning outcome.
Nothing good is going to be stopped for want of funds. The things that we are now talking about, the classroom management, the pedagogy, I don't think that requires a significant amount of fund. So whatever you have allocated, it can be done with that.
In 2014-15, the education sector received an allocation of 68,728 crore rupees, up from 61,857 crore rupees in 2013-14. The school sector got 51,828 crore rupees, out of which 16,900 crore was given for higher education. This time, educationists demand an allocation of 73,807 crore rupees and an increase of 1% from the total GDP to address the gaps. Educationists say the 2014 budget did bring relief to the sector, but failed to bring about any significant increases in outlays.
There's no sense of urgency. That is a big gap. We think, for example, everybody in the economists and so on will think about foreign investments coming in India and then India will grow. But that human capital, our own human capital, can be limiting in India's growth is not something that people are talking about.
It's clear the government realizes the need for massive reform. To address the problem of the lack of trained teachers and education outcomes, the government introduced initiatives like School Assessment Program and Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya New Teachers Training Program. Social development institutions, however, say measures fall short of what's required.
We could not implement the RT Act. 5 years has gone and only 10% schools are RT compliant.
This year's Annual Status of Education Report, ASER, speaks of India reaching towards universal enrollment. But of this, only 48% of students of class 5th could read a class 2nd text, whereas arithmetic continued to remain a big challenge. In this light, education strategists emphasize the need for greater spending on school inputs, results and quality. Anshu Jaising's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, that's all in this edition of News Tonight. Thanks for watching. Good night.